Quagmire's age mystery. Quagmire's official birth year is revealed in Foxy Lady Season 7, when the guys compare driver's licenses. His license states he was born in 1948, which should make him 61 years old in 2009, when the episode first aired. Despite this, the show consistently portrays him as a man in his early to mid-40s, both physically and behaviorally. Later continuity deepens the contradiction when his father, Ida, says he lived 61 years as a man before transitioning. If that timeline is accurate, it would imply Ida and Quagmire are the same age. The inconsistency demonstrates the series' disregard for maintaining a coherent character biography. Brian's contradictory origins. Brian's backstory changes several times throughout the series. In Portrait of a Dog, Season 1, Peter explains he found Brian as an adult stray dog, bringing him into the family. However, Road to Rhode Island, Season 2, shows Brian as a puppy in a mill, being separated from his mother by breeders. Later, in The Man with Two Brians, Season 7, the Griffins watch home videos of Brian as a puppy with their family, contradicting his earlier stray origin. By Who's Brian Now, Season 19, Brian is reunited with the Hendersons, his original owners, who claim he was lost years later. These conflicting accounts make his true origin impossible to determine. Bonnie Swanson's never-ending pregnancy. Bonnie Swanson's pregnancy is one of the most notorious running inconsistencies. Introduced in A Hero Sits Next Door, Season 1, Bonnie is visibly pregnant. The pregnancy continues for 116 episodes, lasting nearly a decade in real time. The show acknowledges this directly, with characters joking that she's been pregnant for 6 years. Bonnie finally gives birth to her daughter Susie in Ocean's 3.5, Season 7. The problem lies in the stretching of time. Susie should be much older if Bonnie carried her for that long. The exaggerated pregnancy highlights how Family Guy manipulates continuity for humor, but leaves unanswered questions about character timelines. Stewie and Brian's herpes ritual. In the episode Herpy the Love Sore, Season 12, Stewie convinces Brian to perform a Blood Brothers ritual after seeing it in a Western movie. During this ritual, they cut themselves and intermingle blood. The next day, Stewie discovers he has contracted herpes, which Brian admits he already carried. This is presented as the result of the blood-sharing ritual. The inconsistency arises because herpes is not transmitted through blood. It spreads primarily through saliva or skin-to-skin contact. Therefore, the scenario depicted is medically impossible. The plot hole undermines the episode's central conflict, making it one of the more glaring scientific inaccuracies in the series. The Griffin children's confusing parentage. The origin of the Griffin children are riddled with contradictions. Stewie's birth is shown directly, but other episodes suggest Lois's adult film past raises doubts about his paternity. Meg is explicitly hinted to be the daughter of another man, Stan Thompson, though this revelation is never expanded upon. Chris's backstory even more unclear. In one episode, Lois claims Chris might not even be Peter's biological son, referencing a potential relationship with actor Philip Seymour Hoffman. Other storylines imply Chris may even be adopted or even stolen from a Dutch family. These shifting explanations make the children's family lineage incoherent. Who can understand Stewie? One of the show's longest-running inconsistencies involves which characters can understand Stewie. Initially, it appears that only Brian can understand him fully. Later episodes expand this to Chris, who occasionally responds directly to Stewie's speech. Meanwhile, Lois and Peter generally do not understand him, but sometimes appear to, especially in episodes where the plot requires it. Quagmire, Cleveland, and Joe are portrayed as partially able to follow his words, while minor or one-off characters outside the Griffin family often understand him completely. The lack of consistent rules make it unclear whether Stewie's intelligibility is selective or simply ignored by the writers. Peter's family tree chaos. Peter's lineage is portrayed inconsistently throughout the series. For the first several seasons, Peter is shown to be the son of Francis Griffin, a strict and religious man. However, in Peter's Two Dads, Episode 5, it is revealed that his biological father is actually Mickey McFinnigan, an Irishman who had a brief fling with Peter's mother. This revelation contradicts earlier family history. The issue deepens with the introduction of Nate Griffin, an ancestor who shares Peter's appearance and carries the Griffin surname. Despite Peter supposedly biologically connected to the McFinnigan line, the inclusion of his sister Karen further complicates the family tree, leaving Peter's heritage uncertain. Brian's teenage son Dylan. In The Former Life of Brian Season 6, Brian reconnects with a past girlfriend named Tracy and learns he has a 13-year-old son, Dylan. The primary issue is Brian's canonical age. In multiple episodes, Brian is established as being around 7 years old in dog years, which translates roughly to late 30s in human years. This makes it mathematically impossible for him to have a teenage son. To reconcile this, one would have to assume that Brian fathered Dylan before he was even born himself, which is nonsensical. This age gap contradiction makes Dylan's existence one of the show's most significant plot holes. Brian the atheist despite meeting Jesus. Brian's atheism is repeatedly reinforced throughout the series, most notably in Not All Dogs Go to Heaven, Season 7. He openly declares that he does not believe in God, even when confronted by Meg and other characters. However, earlier in the same season, I Dream of Jesus features Brian meeting Jesus Christ directly. Jesus performs miracles right in front of him, leaving little room for disbelief. The inconsistency lies in Brian's continued insistence on atheism, after first-hand encounters with the central figure of Christianity. The contradiction suggests Brian's stance is less about reasoned disbelief and more about maintaining a personality trait inconsistent with past experiences. Carol Pewterschmidt's vanishing baby. In Mission Impossible Season 3, Lois's sister Carol gives birth, with Peter unexpectedly serving as the one to deliver the baby. The child, confirmed to be a boy, is introduced as part of the storyline, but then immediately disappears from the series. When Carol reappears in later seasons, particularly in Brothers and Sisters Season 9, there is no mention of her child, and she's portrayed as single and childless, even during significant life events such as weddings and family gatherings. The child is never referenced again. The complete erasure of the baby from the show's continuity leaves a major unresolved gap. Brian's character age and timeline inconsistencies. Brian's age is a recurring source of contradiction. In most episodes, he's considered to be 7 years old, aligning with his life as a dog. However, his behavior, experiences, and relationships reflect the perspective of a middle-aged man. The conflict becomes more apparent when Brian is shown to have past romances, college experiences, and even a teenage son. Furthermore, episodes like Road to Rhode Island and Who's Brian Now conflict over when he joined the Griffin household, making it impossible to create a consistent timeline. These issues combine to make Brian one of the most inconsistently written characters on the show. Time and aging in Family Guy. The series frequently ignores the passage of time in ways that contradict established events. While Bonnie's prolonged pregnancy is the most obvious example, other cases demonstrate the same issue. Stewie remains an infant for over 20 seasons despite displaying advanced intelligence and technological skills. Meg and Chris attend high school continuously without progressing in grade level or aging significantly. Events that should drastically affect character ages, such as birthdays or multi-year story arcs, have no lasting impact. This manipulation of time creates major plot holes when trying to reconcile the timeline with character development across the series. Continuity of relationships and marriages. Recurring side characters often experience relationship arcs that contradict earlier storylines. Carol Pewterschmidt, for example, is shown marrying multiple times, yet her earlier marriages are sometimes ignored or rewritten. Quagmire's history with Cheryl Teagues and other love interests shifts between seasons, with some treated as serious past relationships and others erased entirely. Even Lois and Peter's backstory changes at times, portraying Lois as a lifelong partner to Peter, and at other points suggesting that she had an extensive dating history before him. These rewrites create gaps where established facts are overwritten without explanation, undermining the continuity of family and romantic ties. Stewie's technological capabilities. Stewie's inventions, such as his time machine and mind control devices, represent another major inconsistency. In some episodes, these creations are central to the plot and function reliably, while in others, they are ignored entirely, despite being tools that could resolve conflicts instantly. The inconsistency is highlighted when Stewie is portrayed as both a genius capable of altering history and simultaneously an ordinary baby overlooked by his family. The show never defines the limits of intellect or whether his technology is consistently usable, leaving his capabilities unclear. This creates gaps in logic whenever his inventions vanish from relevance. The core problem of floating continuity. Ultimately, many of the show's plot holes stem from its use of floating continuity. This storytelling approach resets the character's circumstances at the end of each episode, allowing for extreme scenarios without permanent consequences. While effective for comedy, it causes contradictions. For example, characters die and return with no explanation. Children remain the same age across decades, and events that should reshape the family dynamic are forgotten the next season. This narrative style ensures flexibility but creates a web of contradictions across across timeline, character relationships, and personal histories, making plot holes an unavoidable part of Family Guy's structure. If you thought Family Guy had some wild inconsistencies, wait until you see how South Park takes aim at real people. Check out my breakdown of every time South Park hurt celebrity egos explained. You won't believe who they went after.